All right, welcome. We've got a good handful of people. I'm Dr. Malari. You guys can call me Gary. I'm one of the counselors here at the middle school, along with Dr. Gonzalez. I may or may not know some of your children. I probably know them, but I'm not overly familiar with everybody in here. But maybe you can just kind of go around really quick so I can get an idea. Ryan's mom. Okay. Oh, I know. And then the dog. Megan Stephanie.
Jada Rulin 6.
Okay. 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 Oh, I know Chelsea. We know Chelsea. That might be a good sign or bad sign. Welcome. This is Mr. Contini.
Scott Clacontini, the instructional technologist at the middle school. I'm heading up the laptop program, teach 6th grade computer science, so it's good to I recognize a lot of the names. And yeah, I mean, how many of you have been to some of our other talks? Okay, good.
Okay. So this is essentially sort of a wrap-up of through the year, and I'm going to provide a bit of an overview and a perspective in terms of the digital citizenship and digital identity. And then Scott will then go in a little bit more concrete into more specific regarding the students as well as suggestions for you as a parent also. So I started off the to be or not to be, so do you have a digital identity? How many of you guys have you ever Googled yourself? Yeah? And what came up? Did anything come up? A lot of things. Okay. So you got a footprint, but you didn't quite know what that footprint looked like. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else maybe I've been curious? And what came up for you?
Stuff going back to that school days.
Yeah, it's amazing how far back you can find things. I did my doctorate program back in 2000, and I found some things back in 2000. Even a little bit before that too, in the like 1995, 96, and that's another when I was up in Washington, which is interesting because that's when the internet started to boom. That's like the Web 1.0. When we had AOL dial-ups, 26 baud, that was fast, and you hope that you got the 56 up to 78, and you're hooping and hollering at 14.4, right? Like whoo! So each one of us more than likely has some kind of digital identity, and so the purpose of this lecture then is going to be looking at what your identity is in regards to being both positive, negative, as well as what that means in a larger scope. And so before, as I was mentioning, when it first started in 1.0, it was really only talk about cyber safety. When we talked about AOL, it was, oh my God, we're talking to this really hot girl, and you're like, oh, let's have a relationship online. And you have this gentleman, who is Buffy, who is a 17-year-old high school cheerleader you've been chatting with on the web, right? And then, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was, that was the focus, is how do you be safe? But what's been happening is there's a transition, and that now it's not just an identity. Now you're developing a sense of citizenship, a sense of community. So what's happened is that you are now participating in the web. You aren't just a person who is behind a computer. It's developing this new sort of culture, right? So we have instances that look like this, where our kids are playing together, or they're communicating side by side, not saying a word, and they're actually texting each other. I saw this live in person. I had some of my younger friends and siblings, and they were sitting down, and they're like, oh yeah, we get together. They sat down, and they started texting. Like, huh, interesting. So you can see starting a development with regards to how interactions change. And see, we as human beings make the tools, and we shape the tools, but it's interaction. Our smartphones, before we were able to text, and all of a sudden, smartphones started developing more and more, and it's become an integral part of not only my life, more than likely your children's lives, as well as the larger scope with regards to culture. So, changes in society. Before, this was the early PCs. Commodore 64, IBM, Unix, you guys remember any of those? I did statistics by hand, did some analysis on our Unix system, and we had to write out every single parameter of statistics. Now you can get SPSS and do it like this. Things that took forever, now it can take 5 seconds. And so we've got little kids who are now computer savvy. You give them their phone. I've seen people babysitting with their phones. They said, here's an iPad, and they know how to move things around, and it's amazing in this shift with regards to our society. The convergence of everything that we used to have, from typewriters, boom boxes, radios, all fit into one little unit. So as you can see, there's this shift to this microcosm of what we used to have globally in the hands of your children, and yourselves too. You guys remember when you rented videos? Yeah, we used to, the VHS, you go to the video store, you rent it for $2.99. There's almost no reason to rent that because you can get everything online. This was a statistic back in 2007. Consuming as much bandwidth an entire 2001 day consumed in 2000 and they did in 2007. 72 hours of videos are uploaded every minute. 72 hours. That was in 2007. That was 6 years ago. So you can imagine what bandwidth they're using. I remember when I had my cell phone, on the Edge for AT&T, and then they came out with 3G. Now that's not fast enough. God forbid. Let's go in LTE. And then what's next? Completely live, super bandwidths, T5 lines coming out of your telephones. Just a picture of what the BARTs and subways look like. Concerts. Apple's touting they are the one camera that takes the most pictures ever. And so if you look at it at a concert, what are they taking pictures of, right? So you have this use of the smartphone. I just want to give the statistics where there's something always on. School actually uses the least amount of smartphones used. We don't really use it. We use your iPads, the computers, but when you're at home, there's a lot of home usage. Work, restaurant, in the store, you see many people just walking down. What annoys me the most, I have a dog. I'm walking my dog. I like to pay attention to my dog. And so I see there's other people walking their dogs, and they're texting. And so that's really much of a sign. And I see kids, parents who are out in the playground, spending time with their kids, sitting down, texting while their kid's playing, oh yeah, or talking on the phone. So you see the shift with regards to that connection. Okay, so there's a shift in, is it bad, is it good? You know, who's to say, 10, 15 years from now, there's going to be a new study in regards to the efficacy of smartphones and family usage. There probably is one now. Okay. Before, no phones were allowed in schools, but now there's many schools that are using apps and mobile devices. A lot of bring your own devices. You know, here at our school, we're one-on-one with computers, with laptops. At our lower school, we're starting to integrate iPads. Fourth, fifth grade, is it fifth grades with Google Books? Chromebooks? Chromebooks. And so this deep integration of technology and education. Many times, you know, a lot of parents are afraid, but it's coming. And what do we do with it? And one of the things that we want to talk about is how do we use it, be useful and positive with that. And as mentioned before, you're creating this new identity with all this new technology that's coming up. Okay. And in the past, we were so segregated. When we were born, you're born in the hospital. What kind of announcements? Anyone to your family. So now, when you're born, you get to advertise it. I've seen videos, announcements online. You know, there's the average birth of children happens about every 6 months, digital birth, meaning that someone announces it online someplace. 81% of children under the age of 2 have some kind of digital footprint. Age 2. So if you can type in their name, they pop up. Like, oh, wow, congratulations, they were born. And they're starting early. And you may not even know that that was posted, right? So moving forward, the internet, it's something that's going to happen. We have kids around there. Anything that you do is going to be easily copied. It can be instantly shared, easily edited. And it's viewed by millions, if not billions of people. So as a person, now you're going to have different identities. So you have your personal identity. This is what makes you unique. And we always think about ourselves, especially from psychology, oh, you've got your personal identity. And that's very much important, right? But you also have your social identity as a group. And before computers, we had those two things. But what's happening is we have a mediation. We have this taking our social and personal and social identities, putting it on a media online. So now you've got this third identity, right? How do we take care of that? How do you monitor all of those things? So when we talk about digital identity, it's not that it's just one person. You have little parts. You have many fragments that interact together. You can have your Facebook identity. You can have your work identity. You can have your Twitter identity. You can have a blog identity. And each of them combine to figure out who you are, at least in the eyes of anyone typing your name in. So that becomes this new identity that you have. And it remixes with culture. All of your digital identity is mixing in, coming into culture. And so in the past, in the hunting culture, kids played with bows and arrows. But in this new information society, our kids are playing with information. All right? So thinking about information more as a tool, as an object. Many times we think about, oh, you know, you're just going to get online, you're going to play. It's more than just play that's occurring online. Right? They're interacting, they're socializing, they're learning to communicate much in a different way than we learned before computers came in. Okay? And keeping that in mind. An example would be how it's being integrated in culture. Gangnam Style, have you guys heard of that? The guy who dances like this from Korea, didn't speak any English, all of a sudden, boom. It's huge market. And so what he did was that he wanted to integrate all his music to the rest of the world. And so he didn't put any copyrights on his music. He let it go. Perfect example of how to integrate their music into society through the internet, through media. Another example at UC Davis during the sit-ins, we had that one police officer who pepper sprayed a line of protesters. You guys remember that on the news? And somehow it became integrated into society. We got Legos. We've got putting with Dancing with the Stars. This is where the editing. He sprays the Constitution. You know, the dark side of the law, right? So it's this remix and bringing in that identities that you have with our culture. Okay, so now you have this mixture of identity and culture. So what does it mean for you guys? So back in 2003, do you remember? I don't know if any of you've seen this video. This young man, he videoed himself being a Jedi. Have you heard about this? Have you seen the video? So back in 2003, it's one of the first viral videos. I was going to show a clip, but I just decided to show the picture. And he is doing his Jedi moves, and it looked pretty silly. Okay? And a couple of his friends, decided to take the video. And this is one of the first videos that went viral on YouTube. In less than a day, there was like hundreds of thousands, a couple of million viewers. And what happened was he sued them for $250,000 for stress he had to endure because everyone calling him names, making fun of him. So now the identity and culture, everything's starting to meld together. Okay? This young lady from UCLA, she made statements on YouTube about Asians, very racist remarks. Everyone responded. I mean, huge response. And even the chancellor actually responded on YouTube. It's like, huh, okay. So now we've got schools, society, media starting to integrate together. So it's like all this scary stuff. A teacher loses a job after commenting on students with Facebook. Now it's going into business. Okay? Making statements that the parents, that students were germ bags and parents were snobby and arrogant. It wasn't us here at Parker. So just to let you guys know, we love you guys. You guys are wonderful parents. And understanding that now the world is watching. Your digital identity is being put online for everyone to see. And many of our kids jump on there, and even as adults jump on like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Even when you put a snapshot, if you start a blog, a WordPress, and you decide not to finish it, you decide to leave clips and excerpts in there, one can find them. And so what does that say? Not everything is scary. Okay? Everything that goes on the internet, it's never forgotten. The way the web and internet is now, once it's on there forever. There's no way to retrieve it and erase it. Okay? And you do have a global audience. So, is the internet and everything, do we take our kids, put them in a box and say, this is scary stuff? No, because one, there's positive sides to it. Okay? Justin Bieber. He was found online by Usher, and look at him now. He's a big pop star. I didn't put this on there. The new singer of Queen. You guys know who that is? So it was this Filipino guy who was singing in the Philippines. English is kind of broken. Wonderful singer. They found him. Now he's the lead singer for Queen. Right? All because of the internet. This young lady, she's a novelist. And what she did was put her novels onto the App Store for Kindle. She makes millions of dollars because she sells about 10,000 copies of her stories at 99 cents a day. She makes about, $7,000 a day selling it. So now the entrepreneurship of being online is starting to show up, right? So a lot of our kids are starting online companies. We have students at the upper school who has a online that helps kids come together so that they can work online cooperatively. And it's fabulous. Some people are making difference. This older woman here was bullied online, bullied on the bus. It was shown on video. The world rallied together and said it wasn't fair. Now she's giving back and is creating an anti-bullying foundation. Learning. Our kids, we're actually recording this right now on Google+. So we can actually live stream this presentation to anyone who wants to watch it. And so now once this is done, it's going to stop, record, put it on YouTube, and immediately available to anyone that wants to watch it. So it's a way to extend. However, there's some schools that are still a little bit backwards. This gentleman here, he is being charged for academic misconduct for cheating. How? He created a page on Facebook where they can share and study a subject. Have any of your kids been online to make a study group at all? Okay, that's cheating. Right. In a sense, you're sharing answers, right? And so the school is saying that regardless of however they were collaborating, whether it's Facebook or fax, they think it's cheating because you're sharing ideas. His response was, if that's cheating, what about tutoring? What about discussion groups? So there's a shift, movement from the real world, the physical world, into this online world. And many times adults don't see that. A lot of the positives like, oh, you know what, get off, you're just chatting. They may very well just be chatting and not talking about subjects, but get them in the group of kids together. They still may chat anyways. So the main purpose then is, what do you do with your identity? You want to make sure you're creating a positive identity and footprint, and that everything you do now ends up on a permanent record. The best plan is to overload Google with a long tail of good stuff and always act as if you're on candid camera, because you are. Someone's always watching. Because of the Boston Marathon bombing, this weekend during the beta breakers, they've set up more cameras all over the place in order to videotape. Okay. Do you ever want to say to folks who scream they don't want their private lives online, maybe you should just try to be a better person? Whatever you're putting out there is going to be seen. And so one of our duties then is how do we direct our kids to become positive citizens online? And Scott's going to go over that. Lastly, digital citizenship isn't just about recognizing and dealing with online hazards as it was before. It's about building safe spaces and communities and understanding how to manage information and understanding how to manage personal information and about being internet savvy. Using your online presence to grow and shape your world in a safe, creative way and inspiring others to do the same. Take a positive approach, and an active approach with your kids. And so we're going to go through that with Scott. And one last thing is, don't limit your child's learning because of how you were taught. There's new ways of teaching that's being incorporated even through school that we could find pretty frightening. But be open to some of these. And with school, with integrated with the one-on-one laptops, sometimes our kids are going to come up with new ways of learning and that we've not seen. They may end up teaching us also. Okay. All right, thank you.
So hopefully we've kind of set the stage for digital identity and digital participation is real. It's here. We need to kind of shift our thinking as adults and start to embrace it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is share with you the parent version of what your children got today. And I strongly encourage you to kind of share this with them over the weekend, over the summer. But what I really talked to them about was how they create their identity, how they should approach that. And let's talk about you a little bit. What is your risk level online? And a lot of us don't think about that ever. We go, okay, well, I just go online, I have my pages, I'm not doing anything, so I'm pretty safe. I don't click on anything I'm not supposed to, must be all right. So first thing to ask yourself is, do you have a social web page at all? So if the answer is yes, you are now at risk. You have an online identity that is now at risk. People can find you, and they can find everything you have ever posted with your name on it. From actually Google's already got stuff from like the 1800s online, so forever. The next question: would you ever post your phone number or email address or home address on your social page? And I would think a lot of us might say no. Got a little snapshot here of my Facebook profile that I didn't realize how much I was actually sharing. I had actually set a lot of it maybe a couple years ago to not share anything. But as you get a new phone or a new app comes out or an update happens, you end up having to click and allow certain things access to your account, and you don't realize that what you've just allowed are key pieces of information to be shared. Do you go and check in places? There are tons of apps out there that are there for you to share. Where are you? What are you doing? You are so interesting, and everything you do we want to know all the time. So do you check in? Do you say, family just checked in Disney World, check it out? Do you set future updates? Can't wait for the next performance next weekend. The whole family is going to go to LA. Can't wait to see the rest of the family. And what we don't realize is we've kind of given this, hello, I'm not going to be home. Please come rob me. The whole family's going to be away. We're having a great time. Don't worry, my big screen TV, door's unlocked. Go on in. So we do these innocent things, and we don't really think about it. So if you answered yes to any of those things, you not only have a digital identity, but you now have an identity that you have to protect. You actively have to monitor how much you're sharing and where you're sharing it. And I'm not saying 24/7 you have to be nervous and anxious about it. What you do is you just have to be aware of what you're sharing, when you're sharing it, and we have to kind of change our impulse behaviors that we have online. This is new territory, and a lot of it is not, it's not necessarily considering the risks. It's opening up the sharing windows, and not a whole lot of care from the business end on our risk levels. So today I asked your children these exact questions, and I'm just going to share a couple of their responses. So, do you use social media? I loved this one when it showed up. Of course I do. It's an essential part of my life. Now, they had the option of changing their usernames and going anonymous. It encourages the sharing. This was all done live during the assembly today. And they could vote on the responses. And these are responses that got a lot of, yes, I do that too, kind of votes. This one was, I have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, MySpace, Google+, Orkut. Well, I don't think Orkut's around anymore. I think they were just rattling off every social media site they've ever seen. But the idea that one of our students has 7, 8, maybe 10 social web pages, it seems unmanageable and unwieldy to me, but it's actually pretty commonplace for them. They set up a social page for every single social group that they have so that they can talk to them where they are. And for them, it's like, yes, it's just one of the other million things that I have that I'm managing right now. Do you check in anywhere? I was surprised. Overwhelmingly, the students were like, no, I don't check in anywhere. That's telling people where you are. I was surprised. I thought maybe the kids would be checking in everywhere they're going, and it turns out it's just us adults that are checking in everywhere. I have a lot of Google teacher friends, and I get their updates, and I'm constantly getting updates from this one guy who, I mean, I love him, he's amazing, but he travels all the time. He's never home because it's just like, I'm in the airport, I'm in Atlanta, I'm in the airport, I'm over here in Belgium, I'm in the airport, I'm in Australia. And it's just like, wow, I know exactly where this guy is at any point in time. I can find him, and I could probably look up his airline itinerary. But our kids aren't doing that, which is good, I guess. Do you share your personal info? And a lot of them said no, they wouldn't. I presented to them the same situation that I had. You know, how many of you have a smartphone? How many of you have put your social media applications on your cell phone? Most people have. Ooh, I got an iPhone, I'll put Facebook on it. As soon as you did that, you allowed your phone number to be shared because you're getting the information on your phone. And people don't know that. They go, no, 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 my phone number is totally private. No, it's not. It's actually freely available because as soon as you click here, boom, Facebook knows exactly what your phone number is, and people can contact you via an email address that goes right to your phone. So they can get a hold of you anytime. I got a quiet crickets in the audience when I said that. People went, because all of them had their phones in their pockets going, oh wait, I'm logged into all of those right now. So there's way too many social media sites to track down where your children are going to go. You can say you can't have a Facebook page. They're just going to start up a Tumblr page. And when you say no Tumblr page, they're going to open up a Skype account and have a profile on there because it's for school. And then they'll start chatting and doing that. So it's not worth stopping them from doing it. It's worth talking to them and funneling them into, this is the kind of identity you need to start to have. And I'll start talking about why. We need to give them the concept of walls and windows. This was an analogy given at a conference that we were at by Dr. Samir Hinduja, who basically said we really just need to think of the internet as putting up a wall, which means nothing can get through. Basically, you have no presence online. And almost none of us can say we have walls up. All of us have an online presence. So now we have to admit, okay, I've got windows. And some of them are open, some of them are closed, some of them are cracked a little bit. And we need to realize, well, do I have any wide open windows anywhere? We're not exactly closed off to everything. Most of us probably have our windows cracked a little bit. Certain groups get certain pieces of information. We have maybe looked at our settings a little bit and shut down what we share a little bit. But there's information coming in and out. And that seems pretty healthy. Surveys would show that most of our kids have activated these accounts and just open the window. Thousands of friends, and they don't really, if anybody asks to be their friend, great. That's just more friends. Okay? So they don't really have the concept of when I opened up that window, everyone has access to my information. Now, where I'm going with this is not the scare tactic of, Buffy, the 75-year-old pedophile who is stalking your child. There's too many people online now. We have almost as many people on Facebook as there are people on the planet. So really the concern that you've got this very small, virulent, community of pedophiles all stalking a small number of children is we're not in that community anymore. It's everyone is watching all of the time. And so what's happening is our risk factors are no longer what are you going to share with a stranger. It's, wait a minute, this is going to affect your life. Not just in this tall, small, tiny box of I don't want you to ever get hurt. This is, oh my gosh, when you go to get a job, your employer is going to look at your internet history and make decisions. 37% of employers, as of this year, are using social networks to screen their candidates. Do you have an online presence? If you don't, that puts you in one pile. Probably not in the I'm going to interview you pile. And if you do have one, now they're going to look at what does it look like? And that'll put you in a different pile. 65% want to see if you represent yourself professionally. If you have a social media page, is it just your party page? Is it just family albums? Or is it, I go out in the city all the time and party? And, I have friends who lost jobs. They're lawyers. All because they put their last vacation. They'd quit their job. They weren't happy. They went on a vacation to the Mediterranean. They were at some parties. They posted the pictures because they were so happy that they were making a life-changing decision. Went to their job interview when they got back, and the employer said, we don't think you're our kind of candidate. This is a $350,000 a year salary that she was groomed for, that she quit her job for, and then magically they weren't interested anymore right after she posted her vacation pictures. Crazy. 34% find information that says, nope, we're not hiring you, and that's it. So we've got to be thinking about this. I mean, you should be thinking about this on your employment scale, on your hiring practices. You can find out a lot of information this way. But also think about your kids. They're 13 and 14 years old. Everything they put out there is going to be out there forever and a future employer is going to look at it. I've talked to them about this, yes. What I focused on with them was the concept of public and permanent. Nothing that they share is private. Nothing. It doesn't matter how locked down you think your page is. If you send a picture out, or you say something on somebody else's page, that is permanent. And it is viewable publicly to everyone. A private message somebody can take a picture of it. You know, I could just be like, oh, look at this private page. Let me just send that to my global community. That wasn't private, that's public. And now I've just sent it out. That's permanently out there. There's no chance of you getting that back. So this is what I drove home with them, was that, yes, they think that I'm only friends with my friends. And so I share whatever pictures I want with them. Or I say whatever I want. I use foul language freely with my friends. But what they don't realize is that they have zero control over what their friends have their settings on their accounts on, who then sees that, who then sends that out. Perfect example was we had a family here who had a child in middle school, an older sibling in college. And the middle school child says, I found this picture of so-and-so smoking. And the parent was just like, no. I've seen their page. There's no, you couldn't have. And then here's the picture. The child had 2 pages, 2 different social media pages. One that they showed to mom and dad to show that they were doing everything correctly. And the other one they were showing to all their friends, which was pretty much carte blanche, everything they were doing. And you know, what do you do with that? Everything you put out there, you think you're hiding it and it's private, but it can be shared everywhere. And so it's not, I know this sounds frightening, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be, okay, do something about it. And so I also pulled this up. Colleges are now looking at candidates based on their social media pages. Yes, you have to take your exam, and you have to write your essay, and you need your recommendations. That's going to get your door open. That'll get your application on the desk. But then they go, okay, you're in, and now let me look at you online. And let me make my real decision. No.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't see that yet. Wow. I guess it depends on what's in the song, right? So this was said by an admissions department at a college, that the traditional application shows you the polish. This is what they want you to see. And that what they do is they dig into the social media to find out that real picture, that raw kind of personality that is going to be coming to their school. They actually want a proactive social student, but they also, they can really dig in and figure out, are you really a good fit for this community? 87, this was mind-boggling. 87% of colleges are using social media for recruiting. So they're not even waiting for applications. They are looking for that kid who's got a social media page that says, look at what I am doing. I am, first chair in the orchestra. I am the Intel Science winner. I am on this and this committee. I'm in this club. I'm volunteering here, and I'm doing this and this and this and this and this. Look how amazing I am. And colleges are like, let me invite you over. It's like sports recruiting, except it's all online now. They're not coming out to the game to watch you play. They're hitting the internet and saying, okay, what are you putting out there for us to see? And so what we need to start to understand is this is the reality. So our kids are forming these huge communities, and they're connected all over the world, everywhere from MIT to Harvard and Stanford, Princeton. You know, this map was amazing. It's like it had everything from like New York to San Jose, Silicon Valley, Apple, Microsoft. I mean, this person was just connected kind of all over the place. And that's our kids. And so what they put out there is important because everything that they put out there is seen by everybody in their circles. And everybody who's in their circles, in their circles, in their circles. So here's kind of the takeaway that the kids had today was, you know, thinking before you say something online. Thinking about what you put out there and that it is going to stay with you. They got the idea that just because you think something's private, it's not really. I like this one. It was put up there, got a lot of votes, which was, if your parents or teachers wouldn't approve of it, don't post it. And this is that's a great message. Be like, you know what? If grandma or grandpa saw what you posted online and would be appalled, then maybe you shouldn't do it. Right? It's not that they don't get it, but you know what do they want to see? They want to see they want to see your achievements, and they want this good positive identity of their grandchildren. You know, what do you want to see on there? You don't want to see a negative personality. You want something positive. And Gary was pointing out, that's where we're going. That's where the kids are going, is creating these positive identities. I also emphasized with them, I love the bottom one. It was like, so they have their laptops out. So somebody was like Googling information. They're like, oh, look, for every 6 people that complain, you lose 6,000 customers. So they're resourceful. They get it. I did tell them that, you know, I'm seeing what I want to see up on the screen as far as what they were posting. I let them know we all make mistakes. That I know that none of them follow these rules every day. We're gonna make mistakes. So the question is, what do we do about that? You know, what can we do? What can you do? And this was also something that was brought up in a recent conference, which was get together as a family and decide what you want that identity to be. And sit down and make that identity. If you don't have a social media page yet, you should. Find out what social media sites your kid's on and get one, friend them, and sit down at the table and build your identity. Fill out your profiles, go through the privacy settings, check off everything that kind of locks it down the way you want it to, making sure that window's only a little bit open, and have an online identity. If you do have a page and you find you're sharing too much, sit down, show your children. Look at this, I am sharing way too much information, I've got to delete this. What does your page look like? Invite them to kind of be a part of it. What I did tell them was that they need to clean up their pages. This identity needs to be the one that they put out there that colleges are going to look at, employers are going to look at. Yes, whatever they have done is out there permanently, but a lot of people are not going to dig that deep. They just want to see, what are you putting out there right now? And so to actively, and maybe even do this on a regular basis, to go in and clean up a page. Look at your home page and be like, you know, do I need to have, you know, every single pair of Nike shoes that I love on my page? No substance, all material. Or, you know, do I say too many swear words in my posts? Or is this picture not quite appropriate for college admissions? And just go in and clean it up and just make the page look professional and really show off who they are in a positive light. And if you do that actively on a regular basis with them, it'll help them build that. It'll help you build that. I was going to show you all the different, Facebook is ridiculous with the privacy settings. There's like 8 different pages you can go to like check and uncheck and like who can see what and all of this. I encourage you to go through those. Every social media site. So if you have the child with 10 social media accounts, this is going to make for a long weekend. But go through those pages and pages of what are you sharing with people, just to make sure that what you are sharing is positive, that what you have out there is a positive identity. It's not meant to scare anybody away from it. I think we, at the school, we're going to be using it more and more and more, and helping them build something that we are a part of. We're not shutting them down and keeping them away from it as much as we are trying to bring them into it and show them what it can be used for. So I think all I had was these. That is pretty much it. Okay, so we'll open it up for questions, comments.
As you're listening to our talk, if you take out the technology portion, some of the core things that are coming up is communicating with your kids, teaching them boundaries, teaching them appropriateness. That is appropriate for you as a family, because something that is right for you doesn't mean it's right for another particular family. So it's really looking at your personal expectations, your values in terms of family, individual, and making determinations about how you want them to present themselves, as well as how they want to represent you as a family. They're going through adolescence. Adolescence is a stage in which they make mistakes. Sometimes they don't know what right or wrong is. Moral development and identification in terms of what is good and what is bad sometimes is a little skewed. Just because they say bad words, might think, oh, some people say, that's so bad, you shouldn't do that. But they're trying to learn to communicate with their peers. They go online and try things that they've never tried in person. So one of the encouragements is go online, be active, try new things, but maybe not online first. Maybe you want to try this at home. This is a great place to practice, in school. All of those things that they're doing in adolescent development now just shift into a new location. A location that is wider, bigger, appearing scarier, but all the foundations of parenting, friendships, love, communication, they're all trying those out. All the things that you did when you were younger to explore, to try, they're just trying in a different venue. And so part of it is learning to translate those activities into your personal experiences and talk about it. Because what that does, it allows them to say, oh my God, Mom, Dad, guardian, I can't believe you went through the same thing. Because what they think is you're old, decrepit, out of tune, you have no idea what you don't understand this. But guess what? You guys went through adolescence also. Different time, different place, presented differently, but at the core level, it's the same thing. That's why as a psychologist, I can help people in multiple areas in their life because life in itself is pretty much the same. Presentation is a little bit different. You just got to learn how to say, oh, okay, I get what you're doing. All of this stuff, learning boundaries, learning what's okay, what's positive, and what's not. Translated, it's just regular boundaries. Relationships, how much do you disclose? You go to meet a new person and say, oh, guess what? This is my mom, my dad, I live here, and who are you? Same thing here, but guess what? They're talking to 1,000 people. I have some kids who have friends who are now only in the 8th grade, have like 1,500 friends on Facebook. Very different. It's still the same, but different. So use that. Use your experiences because you have a lot more than they do. Just don't start talking old terms of like, we used to do this. Translate your talk into child talk so they can understand you also. All right. Any questions? We're open to comments. Personal experiences that you want to share that maybe you think is interesting, is unique, that maybe you think would be helpful for another person, or just like, wow, this is just crazy. I just want to throw it out there because I think I'm the only parent that's experienced this. Yeah.
I was going to ask about where you crossed the line. I mean, before all this was in place, I could have a conversation with a friend, my parents wouldn't know. Now it's being recorded on a text message or email or on a Facebook page. So, as parents, are we supposed to be looking at this? Are we supposed to give them the privacy? Where do we?
So that's a balance between normal development of individuation and connection with. So they're still in that push-pull. Remember, this is the adolescence phase. I love you, but don't come too close. Oh, I need your help, but please don't tell anybody. Right? They're in conflict with each other. Again, how much of it? So my question then is, what's okay for you? Because for some families, they want to know every single communication. I'm not here to judge, to say, you know what, that's incorrect. But what that does, it sets up the boundary so it's very different. And just expect that when you want all that communication, because we're living in a very individualistic society, you're going to get a big push on that. And say, you know what, I'm an individual, I'm growing up. And it's a balance. How much individuation can you give them that you're comfortable with and you're okay with, but yet enough to give them that space? It's a dance. You know, if you come too close, then we'll push back. Okay, maybe I need to step back a little bit and play along with that. Some families will say, hey, you know what? I don't care. I trust you. So I really put it back on you and say, what is comfortable for your family? Because when you make the rule, you guys are the parent. You make the rule and say, this is the way it is. Don't be afraid, because they're going to hate you. They're going to scream at you. They're going to say you're not fair. Don't be afraid that that it's not okay. It's okay to do that. You guys are parents. You can take that computer from the room, shut it, and say, you know what? Call CPS. I don't really care. I didn't hit you. I took the computer. See what they say. They're going to cry. Oh, you took my computer, my life away. Guess what? Tomorrow I feed you. I house you. Hey, I pay for you to go to school. And then it's that balance, because I think we want to be liked by our kids. Even teachers do this. They want to be liked. And learning that there is a power differential, that you are a parent. You make decisions that may not necessarily be happy for them. Is it right? Is it wrong? Hindsight, you can look back 20, 30 years later and they can say, oh, Mom, Dad, you were so good for doing that. Or 20, 30 years later, I can't believe you did that to me. Right? So it's experimenting and knowing that you can make mistakes as parents. And they're going to either love you or hate you, whatever they say. Set those ground rules, but know your expectations and stick to it. Because if you waver from that, you give them that little space. You give them that 5 minutes. All of a sudden, oh, I want 10 minutes on the computer. Oh, no, I want an hour. Oh, they're hiding in their room, sneaking in. Set your parameters and stick to it. And as they grow older, in our particular society, you allow for more individuation. Let them make experiences, let them try things. But the way I advocate for that is that you communicate, you guys negotiate. It's like buying a car or a house. You negotiate what price is negotiable and what's acceptable. And then you have a range, because once they invest in it, even though it's in part, you know, we agreed to this. I didn't make it fully. When they're kids, as little kids, you make it all the time. 6th grade, 7th grade, you start to negotiate. 8th grade, high school, more negotiation. When they're off in college, you know, it becomes more difficult. So, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, are there any tools out there that you can run an audit to see? You go through all these things and try to firm it up, but still you want to check externally, just truly good enough, or are there more sophisticated tools to see
What is
someone to find out about you?
yeah, I mean, whether or not it's worth it is the other question. Just knowing that everything there is to know about you is out there. I can pay for all that information. It's in your tax records. It's in such and such. You know, it's anywhere you filled out an application and somebody entered it into a computer, I could pay to probably get that. What's freely available is probably going to come from what you have put out there personally. You could sit down and literally just Google everybody in the family. What can we find out about you? And just going through that, be like, wow, look at that. I mean, I Googled myself one time, and I was amazed at my accomplishments. I was a doctorate in Australia doing marine biology. I was like, wow, we have a lot in common. Some guy with my name had a degree in the same field as me, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. How many people are confused between me and this guy? And it's kind of that's a fun exercise in itself to do with the whole family.
I have a application called Been Verified. Employers use it. I'm using the free application. I can get your home address, your relatives, your neighbors, the cost of your house, the last places you've lived, your history of your live, all at a touch, and it's free. If I paid for something, then I could even get your Social Security, your arrest record, your DMV record on my iPhone. I play around with it because I get one free a month, and I try to just say, okay, who do I want to check out? Just for fun, to see what it comes up. But it's available out there. I also have access to LexisNexis. LexisNexis is, I've got the legal and academic. So I can go into anything that you have that has, that's legal, meaning your house, death records, birth records. I have access to that because I teach at Santa Clara, so I've got access to those. Am I creepy? Am I going to look those up? Probably not. But can a person do that? Yes. So part of this then becomes that knowing that you have public records, but you also have private, permanent, that is also public records. And just keeping that in mind.
Look at the guy from WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
You know, he was probably fine until his boss got angry at him one day. And he said, "Oh, really? All of these classified documents online, public." I mean, it's if you've ever put that information out there in any form, it can be scanned, copied, shared, and it's global and it's permanent. Nothing you can do. So it really comes down. I love the quote from the guy who said, all these people who say we need to really lock down privacy, why don't you just be a better person, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it, is kind of true. Like, we just need to think about what we're putting out there. Are we proud of it? And if we're not, why are we putting it out there? And that's really the message to drive home with the kids. Be like, don't put anything out there you're not proud of. And that kind of answers all of the questions they have.
Take time. I've asked parents to sit down with their kids and say, you know what, just share this with me. I'm not going to make any judgments. Just make sure that if it's like on Facebook, they have to be at least 13. Otherwise, you gave them permission to do that. So have them share it. It's one of those, okay, I want to know a little bit about your life. I'm not going to make any judgments. And then I'll tell you my impressions in terms of what my expectations are. Then let's negotiate what's okay and what's not. That's where the communication comes in. A lot of times the kids are exploring their identities. They're exploring ways to, because they're quiet here, but this loud, rambunctious person online. But yet they're afraid to show it. Why? Why are they afraid to show it? Because those parental expectations of you got to be perfect. Not that I'm saying all hardcore parents want their kids to be perfect, because they are near perfect already. But some of those expectations and how you communicate that, it might just be just that. You might just have to change the way your expectations are. Like, hey, you know what? You can make a mistake. Oh, guess what, Mom, Dad? Look what I have. And that's a communication style. It's a way of practicing to get your kids to open up. Their adolescents, are they going to open up freely? Pretty questionable. But at least you give them that handout to like say, hey, I'm inviting you to come talk to me. Any other questions, comments?
Okay, this is fantastic. Since slightly off topic, I'm working with my daughter, who's a great kid. She's got a laptop, she's chatting.
Yeah.
She's really good about homework. Never goes anywhere without asking us first. Totally. And she's really good. She's really good. The other day, she tried to close down the tree and said, "David, posted it on her status, and the result was like,
Yes.
link on her site." And her friend immediately went, "What is ticked off?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, what happened?" She went and like, saw it.
Yeah.
And then so we dealt with it,
Mhm.
So we kind of dropped it in the ice. So because safety and protection is, I think resources.
Cool.
Because my child didn't need to.
There's filters you can put in, but it's not.
There's
filter
filters, but I mean, you know, she typed it. She typed in or copied, you know, a piece of it. So